Today we have a session from Paul Charley. I will introduce him in next slides. But today the topic is overcoming the challenges of ServiceNow upgrades. Um, the agenda will be, I will kick off the session. I will introduce myself and Paul. Then there will be a session from Paul where he will explain the challenges organization face and how while upgrading and how to overcome those challenges. Then we have Q&A session, and then after that we have quiz by Vivek Verma. You guys know that we also give goodies for the top 3 winners of that particular quiz session. So without wasting time, I will go to the next slide. I'm Ashutosh. I'm working with NN in Netherlands. I've been associated with Paul on one of the projects from last couple of months as well. I'm a dev MVP as well as community MVP for 3 times now. I like to share my knowledge on community. My hobbies are playing cricket, football, and cycling. Um, so this is the main guy we will be talking about today. So welcome, Paul. We are happy to have you. So to introduce Paul, he has a dynamic experience of 25 years. He's an entrepreneur. He co-founded basically Automate Pro. And now what is Automate Pro? I would like Paul to explain it in his presentation or end of the presentation. I won't spend more time there. But he has a great vision. Um, as you speak to Paul, you will know that he is really helping organizations to overcome the challenges, to automate things as much as possible. He also worked with UK government. He also worked with HP and Rolls-Royce. Um, so Paul, maybe I will hand over the stage to you, and I will allow you to share the screen so that you can start your demo, and maybe you can introduce. If I have missed some things, please.
Of course, no problem
add.
at all, and great to see you all. And my picture is, I think that must be a pre-lockdown one, because I've grown a bit of stubble on the face since then. So I look actually younger in that. Maybe I ought to go and shave and growing hair on my face, not on my head. But great to be here. Thanks, Ashutosh, for your lovely introduction, and I hope I meet up to the expectations for this session. Let me share my screen straight away, and we'll start here. This guy's got his head in his hands. I'm so excited to be here. I've heard a lot from many of you have been messaging me and things and saying you're really looking forward to this session, and I really appreciate all of that. I'm very flattered that you think that of me and you're looking forward to this. One person who's not looking forward to this today is my wife, because unfortunately it's our 22nd wedding anniversary. So she's waiting patiently for me to finish this. And then, but I wanted to take this opportunity when Ashutosh said, come and do this. I was like, yes, okay, wedding anniversary or not, I'm there, I want to do this. We've obviously worked with lots of organizations across the globe, large and small, different industries, small ServiceNow teams, large teams, you name it, we've spoken to them. And the number one thing that comes up every single time when we say, what are the challenges that you've got? It's always upgrades. They take too long, they consume too much resource, and you end up with your head in your hands like this guy, or in my case, you tear all your hair out and then you don't have any. So it's a big pain for everybody. And what I wanted to do today was to share some of the learnings that we've found, having spoken to lots of ServiceNow customers, and they've told us what the pain is. And we've come up with a kind of framework or a model, if you like, or a pattern that is kind of the common things that we see. So the customers that are upgrading quickly and painlessly, they do certain things. We've consolidated that information. We've put it into a framework, which I'll share with you today. And hopefully, so you'll be able to take that away and use that with your customers. And at the end, we've only got around 40 minutes, I think, today. So I'll cover as much of it as I can in this session. And then at the end, I'll let you know how, if you want to get more information, I'll show you how you can do that. So hopefully that's okay with you. I guess one of the first things I was interested to know was in your experience, everybody on this call, you deal with different customers, different sizes. What's the typical kind of duration for an upgrade? If you could put in the chat for me, by the way, I didn't say this is going to be quite an interactive session. So if you could put in the chat for me, how long typically do you see upgrades taking? Is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 3 months? Some people have said. So let's just have a look. What's coming in? So we've got 6 weeks in the chat. Just say how long. 2 weeks. Weeks. Fantastic. 4 weeks. What's the number up to 4 weeks? 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Wow, yeah, that's we've got customers because I'm guessing 3 months. So it's hugely painful exercise. And what I'd like to do today is to share with you some of the learnings of how we can make that better. Hopefully you go away with something that really helps you address that. That's fantastic. So let me move on to, you can probably see my next slide, can't you? The 2 key things that we find, so as I mentioned, we meet up with a lot of ServiceNow customers, and the 2 things that come up every single time when we say, so what is the problem with upgrades? Everyone says, oh, upgrades are painful. What is it? One is that it takes too long, and the second thing is it consumes too much resource. So it's almost like everybody gets piled into sorting out the upgrade problem. So we've seen there sort of 2 to 6 weeks is the time frame. So everybody in the team gets sucked into doing upgrades. And of course, what that means is if you're doing upgrades, you're not doing more useful work. You're not rolling out new modules, you're not introducing new workflows, you're not getting value from the platform. Upgrades are kind of a necessary thing that you have to do, but you don't really want to be doing them. Ideally, they would just happen and consume no resource and time at all. So those are the 2 key sort of things that we see. And I'm just going to draw up for you a kind of a landscape chart, if you like. You're going to have to excuse my drawing skills, I'm afraid, because I'm not the best artist. But if we were stood together on a whiteboard, this is the kind of thing I would do. I'd get my whiteboard pen out and I'd start scribbling on a whiteboard for you. So I thought we'd try and replicate that kind of experience. I think we've all missed that ability to get in a room together. So I'm going to sort of draw up what we hear from customers. ServiceNow Upgrade landscape. I'm going to call it the landscape. Okay, because it's kind of like a picture of what we hear from customers about where they are and where they feel the pain with upgrades. And what we hear is that customers, large or small, doesn't matter what industry, but they basically fall into one of 4 quadrants. Okay, and there's kind of 2 dimensions to this in terms of a scale on the horizontal and the vertical. On the vertical scale, there are customers that are finding the upgrade process extremely painful. Okay, so that's down the bottom there. And what do we mean by that? We mean that it takes a long time. Maybe there are issues escaping into production. So it's those kinds of things. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of resource, and it's very manual process. Okay. So that's down that end of the scale. At the opposite end of the scale, we hear from customers where the upgrade is very painless. So what do we mean by that? The upgrade is very quick or very fast. It's very automated. You have to excuse my handwriting, apologies. It's quite hard writing on the screen. There's no issues. They just happen. Upgrades just happen. And no issues at all. You don't get any escape defects. Along the horizontal, so bringing in that idea of the resource that everybody's getting sucked into doing the upgrades. What we find is that sort of at this end of the scale, everybody's dragged in: developers, sysadmin, business process owners. Everybody's an army of people that are consumed. They're sucked in to doing the upgrade. And then down this end of the chart, we've got customers who, it's very lightweight. It just happens. They press some buttons and off the upgrade goes. No one really even knows it's happening. It just goes on. So that's the scale down there. So and what we hear is, and what we see is that customers fall into one of those 4 quadrants. And let me color in this one. So this is the first one, and this I'm going to color in red because this is obviously quite a painful place to be. Let me just do this and back to that and there, excuse me. Right. So in this quadrant here, customers are they're using a lot of resource and it's extremely painful. So we call this, oh, that's very, very thick. Let's go with thinner pencil. We're going to call this area down here, this is Painland. Okay. So people that are in that kind of quadrant are in Painland. They're feeling it's hurting them. And typified by kind of many of the customers we talk to, they're saying, yeah, it takes too long, it goes wrong. Then we've got customers that are in this kind of quadrant up here. Let's go highlight, right. And this sort of area here is kind of almost like amber. It's somewhere in between Painland and where you really want to be. And typified, these kinds of customers are telling us that, if I go back to here and here and here, so if we're looking at this kind of quadrant here, then we're saying, well, you're not using many resources, so it's not costing you very much, but you've got issues, it's manual, it's still time consuming. So maybe you're just taking a chance, maybe you're not doing very much testing, so you just kind of risk that it's going to be okay. So I think I'm going to call this risky land, sort of chancing that everything's going to be okay. Top left quadrant, customers in that area, there aren't very many there because it's taking a lot of resource, but maybe you're feeling less pain, but you're throwing an awful lot of people at it. So this is kind of is costly solution. It's costing you a lot of money, but it's costly land. Okay, and then where people really want to get to, of course, is I'm going to go green. They're going to go up in this quadrant here. So this is where people are striving to get. Probably the purpose for this, you joining this webinar, is to understand how can we get from maybe you're in pain land, maybe you're in risky land, but you want to get up into that green zone up there. And I'm going to give that a name as well so that we can refer to it during this session. I'm going to call this happy land because it's a happy place to be. And it means that you not only your upgrades painless, they're automated, you're not getting issues, but they also don't consume lots of resource. So they just sort of happen seamlessly and automatically. So that's a great place to be. But what we also hear from customers is that there's another place to be. And it's this area up here on the top right hand corner. And I'm going to just go back to my black here. And I'm going to sort of hive off that quadrant. So there are some customers, some ServiceNow customers, which are in that zone. And I'm going to call that, and please remember this because I'm going to refer to it later on in the session. This is super green land. So this is where everybody really wants to strive. And Ashutosh mentioned earlier our vision of where we are trying to get customers. We're not trying to get people to happy land. Happy land is good, but we want to get people to super green land. Okay. What does super green land look like and feel like? Super green land is intelligent automation. You know, it's not just automation, it's intelligent automation. So it's using AI to create automation, or another word I'm going to come on to later is automated automation. We do some automation which still feels quite manual, and we call it automation, but it's actually manual. So we're here talking super green land is about automated automation or intelligent automation. It also looks like CI/CD. So not only are we testing thoroughly, but we're continuously moving changes through. Upgrades just become part of that chain of processes. They're just a change that happens, gets tested, gets rolled out. Maybe even you're looking at sort of test-driven development, sort of advanced techniques like that. So, and what we see and hear is that customers want to move from their kind of where they are at the moment. Maybe they're, in real pain down here in pain land. A lot of people have seen ATF as the way of moving out of Painland, and it sort of sets high expectations. But many people tell us that, maybe it gets them some of the way out of Painland, maybe just out of Painland. So yes, it automates some things, but there's still quite a lot of manual work to do to maintain it, to build the tests themselves. Takes quite a lot of resource and quite expensive resource, and we'll come back to that in a bit. So there are routes out of this. Some people are doing Selenium, and I think that moves you a little bit further. And of course, what we're seeking to do with Automate Pro is move people into the very happy land, and even then onto super green. So, hello, is somebody there? Somebody have a question? Nope. Okay. Fantastic. So hopefully that's useful in sort of setting the landscape of what we hear from customers and where they are in the kind of landscape, and where our vision is trying to get people to that super green or the happy land. Let me switch back to this slide here. So what we've done here is we've in speaking to all of these customers and working with them to speed up their upgrades, we've found that there is a common theme to for customers that are doing very fast and slick upgrades. There are four things. There's some minor things as well, of course, but at a high level, there are four key things that we've seen that they do to speed up upgrades. And we've called this the fast upgrade quadrant. Okay, and I'm going to draw this for you right now on the screen as well. Let me do new, and we'll go that pen and black. So we've called this the fast upgrade quadrant, and we trademarked it. So what is the fast upgrade quadrant? So like my previous drawing, it is really easy to visualize, because it's four things that we find. And if you do these four things, then you can achieve faster upgrades. Let me push, I'm going to go on to red. And now let's go that one. Right. So what are the four things? So the first thing that is common to customers that are doing fast upgrades is that they all use a framework. Okay, that is the very first thing. So what do we mean by that? We mean that they have a common process that they follow that is tried and tested and is just a pattern for how you do an upgrade. Follow these sets of steps in this way, and this will result in a fast and seamless and pain-free upgrade. So this is really about a process that's tried and tested. Okay, now it might seem obvious. I'm sure some of you on the call are saying, yeah, that's obvious, Paul, everyone follows a process. But the process that we've come up with through looking at what customers do is it works every time. If you just follow this process, then it works. And it's amazing how many customers we speak to who don't follow a process. They don't follow good practice for doing upgrades. There was a customer I was speaking to the other day, and they said they've got an upgrade project planned. And I said, oh, that's great. How long is it taking you? And they said, well, it's taking us 12 weeks to do it. And I said, well, that's a long time. What have you got in there? And he said, well, we're also introducing a new module whilst we're doing the upgrade. And I said, hang on a minute. The last thing you want to be doing is start introducing new functionality whilst you're doing an upgrade. Do the upgrade, finish the upgrade, then start the development work. So following good practice, good framework is absolutely key. The second thing that successful people do, and this one is obvious, but I mentioned it a little bit earlier, they automate. But they don't just automate using sort of manual automation, as I spoke about before. This is intelligent automation, and it's not just test automation. We're talking here about automating all steps of the development process. So documentation, requirement specifications, those sorts of things. So not just about test automation, and that one is key for successful fast upgrades. The third sort of key ingredient is that we find they simplify. Okay, and what do we mean by that? We mean that they move away from technical, the need for technical resource in doing the upgrade. So this has a number of effects. If you don't need technical resource to do the upgrade, then the technical resource can focus on more value-added things. So we need a method by which you can not need to be a skilled ServiceNow developer with lots of certifications. Many of you on this call will be, highly skilled, experienced ServiceNow developers. Why is it that you're writing tests for an upgrade? That's not a good use of your time, when we can certainly get more value from your skills than doing those sorts of things. So this is about simplifying the whole process and using a set of tools that means that it's simple. The fourth thing, and you're all going to say, oh, that's really obvious. Yes, it is obvious. You've got to test. But the thing that we've seen that makes people successful with really fast upgrades is that they test from a business process point of view. So, and this is a really key one. And again, it sounds obvious, but if you test from a business process point of view, so i.e. mimicking what the end user is going to do, their business process scenarios, then you don't really care whether a particular business rule outputs the right output depending on a set of parameters. What you're interested in is that when that business rule is fired within a business process, that it does what it should do for the end user. So it's about outcome-based testing. What is the process that the user is going to do, and is it going to do what they expect it to do? So that on a Monday morning after an upgrade is done, you have complete reassurance that your business processes are going to work and your users aren't going to raise issues. So it's a really simple but key and proven kind of method for successful upgrades. And interestingly, and maybe not by coincidence, if you take the first letter of all of those 4 key success factors, then you get the word fast. And this is a tried and tested process that we follow of all the key success factors. And what we've done, of course, is build all of this into the Automate Pro platform such that all of those things are easily done without lots of manual intervention and so on. So hopefully you can see at a high level, those are the key success factors. Let's drill into those in a little bit more detail now. So first of all, the framework. So the framework is really key. And again, I'm going to draw you a little diagram because I like drawing stuff. It's more interactive than just looking at slides. So the FAST framework. Let's go draw. Yeah, okay, black. It's the FAST framework. I can send you these, by the way, after the session. FAST framework. And the FAST framework, if you draw on a piece of paper, 1, and then you divide that into 1, 2, 3, and then that into 1, 2, 3, and then you put a line across. Oops, okay, that was interesting. You put a line across there, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 steps. So this is the process, effectively, that you're going to follow, and each of those stages has a kind of a defined purpose for being there. Again, this is through experience of what we've done. So the first thing, and again, some of these might sound really obvious, but you'd be amazed how many customers that we talk to that don't follow these steps. You know, maybe they dive straight in and start testing without planning. I don't know if any of you are on the webinar that I did recently for test strategy, but I shared with you a kind of framework for being able to plan your tests. So how do you prioritize your tests? And it's kind of like a matrix like this. Another one of my matrices. I think I'm going to get a reputation for these sorts of things. And what you do is you plot your your business scenarios onto this matrix. And the matrix has 2 dimensions. One is how business critical is your process. So if it fails, is the CIO going to be on the phone the next day? Down to not very critical. And then is how much configuration. So it's kind of like a tool that you can use to define what your test strategy should be. Which scenarios do you need to test, and how important are they to the business? And that helps you to define where you focus your testing. Now, you'd be amazed. People will say, well, that's obvious, Paul. Yeah, it is. But unless we have a framework and we follow it, then these things don't get done. And it gives you a structure to your upgrade. The second step is to define. So what does that mean? That means to define the set of tests that you're going to do. So you need to actually go and build those, the test cases, the test scenarios with the acceptance criteria. You need to know what it is you're going to test. Maybe you've got that already. Maybe you've got regression test packs and things. We get sent a lot of regression test packs for ServiceNow because customers want help with doing that. And it's amazing how many we look at and we think, okay, yeah, we've missed a crucial risk in ServiceNow. Maybe there's something to do with security, or so that's quite a skilled step, knowing where the risks are in ServiceNow, knowing how to do that. There are, we've got some XLS templates and some sizing needs to be done in there of how big the tests are, what sort of expertise they need, and so on. So there's an exercise to actually create the tests themselves. The third step, and this is a step which many people we find don't do when doing an upgrade, and that is to baseline your existing functionality. So effectively what you're doing there is checking what works today on your system. Now, it sounds like an obvious thing to do, but if you don't know what your current system does, how are you going to know when you've upgraded it whether something's broken by the upgrade or whether it was already a defect in your current version of ServiceNow? And you'd be amazed how many times we've heard the story where somebody is testing an upgrade, they find a problem, and actually when they look back at their current system, it's already a problem. They just didn't know about it. So the point of the baseline stage is to establish exactly what your current system is doing, and get the business to sign off that is the current functionality and that's what it should be doing, and that establishes that baseline. Then we go into the compare stage. So many of you do this already. You upgrade another instance of ServiceNow on the new version of ServiceNow, and then you run your regression test pack against that. So that's test execution. But the main thing is that you've got your baseline to compare with. So you can compare side by side your results from both systems. So you get this kind of thing where you've got all of your tests, and of course what works and what doesn't work on your current version, and if these are all ticks and that one's a cross, then the upgrade introduced something into that version, into that particular business process. So it's really easy to then identify kind of where the issues are in here. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, as I said, if you have a baseline, then you may have a process that doesn't work in your current version, and you may find that it passes in your in the upgraded version. We have had that situation before. And of course, it's a happy outcome because something that wasn't working is now working. So we're all very happy, but at least that is the situation. And for a piece of functionality that isn't currently working, if it isn't working in the upgraded version, you could take the view, well, it's no worse than it was, so let's upgrade. So this kind of side-by-side comparison we find is really important. To be able to do that very quickly and identify which of the areas you need to home in on. So in that case, you can sort of say, right, the only one that I really need to worry about is this one here because it was passing in the current version and failed in the upgraded version. So really nice way of working out what your risk is for the upgrade. Let's go back to my pen. Back.
So, Paul, we have one question.
Yeah, sure.
I think I'm getting my ego. But Harsh, so, Paul, we have one question.
So we would recommend that you run your baseline test against your current instance of ServiceNow. So
the question is from Harshad. He says that does the baseline mean that we have a reference instance
and
in
then
the
you
earlier
run
instances?
your baseline set of regression tests against that instance. Okay, so that establishes your current functionality, what works and what doesn't. And then in the compare stage, you do the same. You clone back production, so the data is exactly the same, or you use the same clone to put on another instance, so whereby the only thing that's changed on that instance is the version of ServiceNow. So everything else is the same. So your data is the same, all of the workflow, all the code is the same. The only thing that's changed between those two versions, if this might be, this one might be Quebec. Let's say, so let's say that's Quebec and this is, I don't know, Paris or something. The only thing that's changed between those two versions is that, and that's a really important stage, and it really saves time. I know it sounds like a simple thing to do, but it saves time because when something fails, it's caused by the upgrade. You're not running around going, oh, was it a data issue, or is it because that other change that we put in there, that update set, maybe that broke it. It really focuses you down. And of course, you may decide that that's a low priority defect. It's a cosmetic thing. We can accept it. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Okay, no problem. And then, so we go. Let's go back. I've got one on a thinner pen. Step 5. This is the one that typically we all hate, and it's the readiness. I call it the readiness stage, but what we really mean by that is getting everything together so that you're able to take it to the change board and say, yeah, we've tested this thoroughly. Here are the test results. Here's the report showing that everything's passed. Here's the defects that we found. Here's where we fixed them. So it's all of that package that enables you to go to CCB. I'm guessing most of you, have to go to a change control board with your upgrade and saying, this is what we're going to do. We're going to upgrade on Saturday. We're going to do this, this, and this. And here's our test results. And here's our user guides updated. Here, the whole package needs to go into there. So, and the really slick organizations, this kind of stuff is all just done automatically. Press a button, and that's why we've built that part into Automate Pro. Press a button, there's your test results. Press the button, there's your test evidence, that kind of stuff. So that's your readiness, and then obviously the final stage, which is really, if you've done all of that good work, then actually the upgrade, and that typically tends to be, sort of almost a checklist process. Do this, do this, do this. And you guys know that probably better than I do. To be honest, the actual upgrade process at all. Our sweet spot is in the ensuring that the system is tested and tested thoroughly, and that UAT is done. So that's the FAST framework. There's a lot more detail, obviously, behind that in the way that we do that. And I'll give you a link later on to, if you want to know more about that, how to get in touch with us to get that. But this is a pattern that successful customers use over and over again. And we've sort of put that in a slide there. You probably don't want to read all the words, but that's in effect what we've just gone through in the FAST framework. Moving on to the A of FAST. So we talked about automate. So I mentioned this before when we introduced the concept. What we're really talking about here, and what we've done within our platform, is to automate the test creation stage. So we want it to be as quick as possible to build automations within the platform. So we're talking about automating the test creation process. The other thing, we've just talked about documentation. If you can't update and produce your documentation quickly, then that's going to slow down the upgrade. So you need to be able to press a button and create updated documentation very, very quickly. So we've built that into the platform. This is a really key one, and this is a bit of a pet subject for me, which is the automation of UAT. So what customers tell us, or ServiceNow users tell us, is that it doesn't really matter how fast they do the preparation for the upgrade. They often find that the business doesn't commit the time or the resource to do UAT. So, UAT can drag on for 2-3 weeks because people aren't able to give it the time. So we were very keen that we solve that problem, such that UAT becomes almost like a visual check by the process owners. They're just able to review what testing's been done, and just give a tick in the box. So when we're talking about automation, we're talking about those are the really key things to automate. We talked about simplify as the S of fast. So here we're talking about a no-code approach. A lot of you guys on the call I know are developers, very highly skilled, and got a lot of experience in development. Do you really want to be using a test framework which needs you to build tests? I'm sure 99% of you became developers because you like developing. You didn't want to have to do testing. Certain people love testing. Certain people love developing. You very rarely find a developer who loves to do testing. So we need a set of tools which are where automated tests can be constructed without having to write code, so that the skilled guys that have the developer skills can get on and do more value-added activities. So that's our take on that. And that's why we believe that you should simplify things down in your test automation to be business readable. So these should be almost like business process tests. And of course, if you simplify, then you can use lower cost resource to do the upgrade, which benefits everybody, of course. In terms of testing, we've touched on this already. So this is the T of fast. The tests have to be written as business process scenarios. So again, I mentioned it before about outcome-based tests. So let's follow a flow all the way through from a record being created. So I call it from birth to from cradle to grave, if you like. So a record is created, it flows on to somebody else, they do something to it, somebody else logs in, approves that record or assigns it, and we'll follow that record all the way through the process until it gets closed off. So it's a business process, business scenario based test, and backing that up is end to end. So let's follow that all the way from end to end, not just one part of the process from the middle. It's really important that on a Monday morning when somebody wants to raise an emergency change request after having done the upgrade, that the whole process works, all of the users' journey works. And the really other key thing around that we find successful customers, they are able to test integrations automatically as well. So we're not just talking about whether ServiceNow works, but does it work where we have a flow that goes from Salesforce into ServiceNow and then maybe onto SAP. We need to be able to follow that journey all the way through so that we know the whole process works from start to end. So you need a tool set that can do that, and we've built into Automate Pro is that capability. Just gonna have a glass of water, a second. So we've talked about the 4 key things: the framework, the automate, to simplify, and to test from a user process point of view. And of course, you could do those things without our platform. Those are, and this is, you can take away these and use them in your own business. But what we've done with Automate Pro, of course, is to build those steps into our platform such that it's all automated, it's all seamless, so that you can move on from this kind of manual way of doing things that is currently happening. And this wouldn't be a session, I guess, without a bit of a demonstration. Oh, actually, I just got another slide there. Let's go on that one. In the background of this is when we talk to customers and we show them the quadrant that I showed them before with the super green. I said I would come back to that later on. The top right, super green. People say, I want to get to that super green. How do I get to the super green? And we say, well, look, this is this is the platform that we've built, which allows you to get to that super green area. Okay, now you're not going to be able to get there probably on day one, because you can't boil the ocean, is a great phrase that I like. You know, you need to take steps towards it. So you need to start to automate, establish your baseline set of tests. You need to get in the habit of running that. You need good processes in terms of deployments and control of update sets. And maybe then you want to start doing test-driven development and auto deployment and so on. So you need to go there in steps. But what we've done, and Ashutosh mentioned the vision that we've got right at the beginning. Oh, hello. That must be the youngest member. And the vision is that we support that end-to-end automation from beginning to end, really importantly underpinned by automated documentation, because let's face it, no one likes creating documentation. So we really wanted to remove that headache from the whole process. I'm conscious that time is running away with me, so I'm going to jump quickly into a bit of a demonstration of some of the software, just to show how we've tackled some of those key elements of that FAST framework. So this is what we call Quick Start AI. This automates automation, in my view. This automatically creates automated tests. So what you do here is you sort of pointed at a particular part of ServiceNow, and you tell it which menu option you want this test scenario to go through. So I've pointed at an incident, but I could point this equally at problem, change, asset, contract, doesn't matter where. This is not a tool that's designed specifically for one particular module. It can be pointed at anywhere, and it can do this for catalog items, record producers, you know, it doesn't matter. And really cleverly, what I do is point it at a template record. So I say, use this as my template for this test, and then add some validation. So we all hate doing the field validations on a form. You know, this user logs in with this view. Which fields do they see? Which ones are read-only? Which ones are mandatory? Well, this Quick Start AI is intelligent enough to go and examine ServiceNow and work that stuff out for you. So you don't have to go in and add all of these acceptance criteria manually. It goes and finds it out. You know, it's all in ServiceNow. All of that configuration is in there. We just reverse engineer it out using some rather clever coding. So, of course, what you can do, and again, this gives you a view of the kind of documentation side of things. A couple of clicks of a button, and it's created me a full scenario here, logging in as a particular user, and then going validating all of these different fields on the incident form that it's found. So imagine the work that it's just saved me in creating all of those steps in the process. And then it goes on filling in the, you know, Beth Anglin into the caller. And it's used the data off of that template record to bring that all in. So wouldn't this be great to give to your customer, your process owner, and say, look, there's is that what we need to test? You know, you can get them to sign off against this particular process, because the next thing I can do is, having created that test, I can turn it into a test run. So I can then automatically execute that process. So I've defined my test. It took me, 10 seconds there to create a test of the incident form with all of the different field validations and filling in the fields. And then I can turn that into a test and execute it against any environment I want to. I hit this button here, which says start the test. And all of this is now taken care of you. So we want it comes back to that simplify thing, you know, the S of fast. We wanted to simplify. Press a button, it goes into the test engine, starts executing that. I don't need to worry about spinning up VMs or whether I've got the browser open or the right browser or the wrong browser. I don't need to worry about moving around. You know, this is all being executed off on a server, part of the service that we provide. So it's all nice and seamless for you. And you can see the test results start to come back in. If I jump into this one here that's executed a bit earlier, we talked earlier about UAT, how UAT and documentation is key to really speeding up upgrades. And you can see down here, this test that's executed, these are all the steps that were done. This one I can see failed, and it's there. What about a test report? You know, if I wanted to submit this to the change board, click a couple of buttons, And there's my test execution report. It does clever things like this. It tells me which version of ServiceNow this was run against, when it was run, how long did it take, which bits passed, which failed, which steps passed, which failed, what's the defect reference. So you're getting all of that just done for you, click of a button type stuff. And then we talked about UAT. How easy is it for a business user then to review this? So imagine a business user wanting to do UAT. Well, all they do is come in here and they watch the results of these tests. Because we've built them as business processes, that's why that step is so key, the T of test. That if you build these tests as business processes, then you can see, the user can see the process having been executed, and they don't need to go and do this testing. If they can see it working and see the results, then it saves them a whole load of time. So they can just view this document. You can see here, it's actually got to the point where there's a defect in the test. So you can open up the defect record, have a look at that. You can even have a look at the screenshot. It's put that on there for you. So I know hours and hours were spent many years ago, putting a red box around these things and trying to, store the screenshots and things like that. So it's a real pain in the neck. So we talk about automation. That's what we mean by automation, automating everything at every stage. Conscious that time's running on. Let me just show you one more thing. We added recently the ability to be able to create a guided tour from a test. So having executed this scenario to create an incident, we thought, wouldn't it be great, as well as being able to create a user guide, which I'll quickly show you as well. So you can create a knowledge-based user guide, step by step. This is the incident process. Here's the steps you need to take, page by page. So again, this is great for UAT. The users can view this and make sure that everything is as they expect it to be in terms of the process. But also, if you're happy with that as a process, you can click on this button and this will automatically create you the steps in a ServiceNow guided tour. So you can see it did that in about 3.5 seconds. Click on that. There's my guided tour with all of the steps. So it's about automation of all of those things, and our vision is that we expand into automating every part of the process. Last bit, I promise. I'll pick up on that question in 1 second. Maybe we can do some questions. One of the things that we're really keen is to allow you to get hold of some of this material. If you want to book a session with us, please use this URL up the top here. And that will automatically get you plugged into a diary session. And if you do that by tonight, I think it's the evening, isn't it, in India for most of you. But if you do that by midnight, we'll give you all of the assets that are on the screen there, all the matrices and the framework and things. So we'll give you all those if you get that session booked up by midnight. But I'm afraid there is a firm stop at midnight. If you want to do that, then please get yourself booked up, and we'll happily send that through. We've covered a lot today, but hopefully it's been useful. We've seen that the key thing is that successful customers that do upgrades fast follow a framework, and this is effectively the pattern for the framework. We've obviously built a tool which automates a lot of this stuff, but there's no reason why you couldn't follow these processes without it. But obviously Automate Pro makes it even easier. That's me done. Yeah. Okay. So Automate Pro is a scoped application built in ServiceNow. We started building it about 7 years ago now.
Paul, just for our audience, what exactly Automate Pro is, I think we missed that part.
By myself and my business partner. My business partner has been involved with quality assurance for over 30 years. So we wanted to build something that sped up not just the testing part of developing on ServiceNow, but the whole life cycle. So everything from requirements capture through development, test, deploy, monitoring, and documentation. So it's a platform underpinned by Selenium, but you would never know that. You don't ever have to code anything in Selenium. That's all taken care of as part of the service, if you like, of the application. Does that help? No, that's all that's built into Automate Pro.
Yeah.
So we
And
generate that off of the tests that were executed, and then we automatically
there is a question
create a
from
knowledge base
Harshad. He
article.
says that
So
is the user
it's all
guide created using some
included as
external
part
paid
of Automate
plugin?
Pro. Okay. Yes, correct. Yeah, we're just about to submit it. Actually, it should be early next week, and it will take as long as certification takes. Typically, sort of 2-3
I heard
weeks,
that
depending on
Automate
how
Pro
many
is going
things
to
they
be a
find.
plugin on the
It has
store.
actually been certified previously, so we don't expect there to be any issues at all. But yeah, it should within the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks, it will be up on the store. Yeah. Perfect. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Paul, for the introduction. So I will go through the list of the questions which people are
So one of
putting
the
in the chat,
things,
and if
let me just
someone
bring
has to
back this
directly discuss
chart
with Paul,
here that we talked
please let
about.
me know.
What we find
So
with
Namita
ATF,
says that
there
is
are
this similar to
3
ATF?
key differences between Automate Pro and ATF. By the way, this is not built on top of ATF in any way. So this is completely, it's a separate application, and Automate Pro is built on top of Selenium. Whereas ATF, we're not quite sure how it works, but it's not underpinned by Selenium at all. So that's one of the key differences. The 3 key differences are that I'm sure if you've used ATF, you've probably found that it can't always test every part of ServiceNow. So there are some limitations. I know it's been improved and extended, and it always has, but what we find is that customers tell us that whenever they try to test anything that's slightly different from out of the box, they come a bit stuck. So with Automate Pro, you can test any part of ServiceNow because it's Selenium. Then you can access any part of the UI, and if so it basically opens up. You can get 100% coverage. And then leading on from that is that obviously ATF is constrained to just testing ServiceNow, whereas with Automate Pro, you can test beyond the boundaries of ServiceNow. So if you have integrations with other web-based platforms, then you can do those end-to-end tests in Automate Pro. So we've got one customer who follows the journey all the way through from Salesforce into ServiceNow and into SAP or Oracle, I think it might be actually. But it doesn't matter. As long as it's web-based, then we can follow that user journey. And what that means is you can rapidly speed up your upgrades, because not only can you automatically test all of the ServiceNow functionality, but you can also test the integrations as well with other platforms. So those are the key things. I think the third thing I would say about ATF as well, and it does concern me a little, that we've started to see that, I'm sorry if there's anyone from ServiceNow on the call, by the way, but we've started to see that ServiceNow have put ATF tags into the HTML such that ATF can test that particular page. Now that is a little bit concerning. We all know, all professionals on the call, we all know that testing is about testing independently from the developer, and it worries me a little bit that if you start putting tags into that HTML, into the application under test to help test it, then you're not really getting that test independence. And that worries me a bit. It's a bit like somebody checking their own homework. They're almost putting bits in their work so that they get full marks for it. So we're a completely independent platform, so we're testing it just like an end user would. So I think, it gives you that complete reassurance that it's going to work for the end user when they come to use it. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. So another great question.
Yep.
One of the things that worries me at the moment, and I have this conversation with ServiceNow customers a lot, is we quite often start the conversation exploring what they're doing with ServiceNow, and they'll say to me, we're just about to undertake a Z boot or a Z boot, somebody said in Canada the other day, a Z boot project. And that, I think we all understand what that means. It means that the instance has been customized so much that it's got to the point now where they need to go back to out of the box. And I often say to people, I ask the question, I say, why are you doing a Z boot? And they say, it's because we can't test it with ATF. And I say, okay, but is that a good reason really to spend a lot of money to Z boot your whole instance and go back to out of the box? Now, there is an alternative. Automate Pro doesn't care how much you've customized your instance. So it can go anywhere. It go into custom pages, custom UI, portal widgets. It doesn't matter to Automate Pro how customized it is or how configured it is. It can interact with those things. We've even done some interactions with Agent Workspace, with a virtual agent. You can have a virtual agent talking to another virtual agent so that you have that conversation automated. So there's basically nowhere that can't be tested. So customizations doesn't cause it an issue. Yeah, absolutely. So scope taps. We've got two of our customers are kind of ISVs, and they've built scoped applications on top of the ServiceNow platform. They've used Automate Pro to test those applications in order to be able to submit them to the store. So they've got all of their test documentation, their user guides, their documentation. They've actually used Automate Pro. So yeah, absolutely a great use case is scoped applications, and no problem at all.
Ashutosh, I just want to ask one more question add on this. So Paul, you were showing that for incident, you have shown us, and we were able to see that there are some series of the test case which got executed. So for scope application, because you guys, when we activate this plugin, so do we have to configure a test case from our end and then we'll be running it, or like we will be getting it? If we, because every organization have a different kind of scope application. So how we get that feature included here?
Yeah, so when you get Automate Pro, you install it onto your instance of ServiceNow. So you run it from your instance, not from our instance. So that's the first thing, you install it on your instance. And then what you do is when you do that quick start that I showed you, you point that at your, those tables, of course, would be in your instance then. So you're able to point quick start at that, and then it will create your test based on the configuration in that instance. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we do trials. It's obviously going to become a lot easier when we're on the App Store, because we're going to allow people to do a free trial on the App Store. So
can we try this on PDI?
Depending on your timescales, we can. That might be the best way to do that. But with large customers, we quite often do a proof of value or a proof of concept stage, where we'll deploy it onto that instance in a test area or something. We can then show you how it would work against your configuration, and and show you all of the full capability before you make a decision to invest in it, because obviously this comes with a price tag. Unlike ATF, which is obviously included with the platform, this is it's a commercial offering. So, but often customers want to make sure that they are going to get the value from it. So to try it against their instance. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, I mean, some respects. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I'd like to dig in probably a little bit more with that person, what they mean by that. But
so Ankit says, can this do impact analysis? Can we do an impact analysis by using Automate
Pro? Build out their regression test pack and then have that kind of in continuous mode. One of the things I didn't mention or didn't get a chance to mention earlier was that Automate Pro can run as many parallel tests as you want, in effect. So you can run, a full regression pack can be running. So you can have your incident management, your problem change, portal, CSM, whatever, you can have them all running sequentially, and you can have them running during the day if you want as well. So almost like in a kind of continuous integration test environment, you can be making changes and making sure that it's not breaking any of your regression test packs. So if that's what you mean by impact analysis, some of our customers do that. They run them continuously to identify the impact of changes they're making. Yeah, so it's another good question. So one of our big customers in the UK, Arm Holdings,
and how much time?
their upgrades are taking
So
over
there is one more
3
question
weeks,
from
nearly
his
4
son, that
weeks.
he says, what is the upgrade time
And
reduction
the only reason they were
percentage?
able to do it in
Have
that
other
time is because they
customer
threw
experienced
15
who
people
are using
at
Automate Pro?
the whole effort. Their testing now is done in less than 8 hours. So they're ready to basically they're able to do that 1 to 6 framework that I showed you. They can do that in less than a day because they can do everything from, they've already got their baseline because they run their tests every night. They then just have to upgrade another environment, point the same test at it, do the comparison report, which is all automated in Automate Pro, and their change control pack is all ready to go. So they can do it within a day. We ourselves are a ServiceNow customer, and the last upgrade that we did, it was done in less than 24 hours. So it can be that quick, and we had complete reassurance that everything was working because we ran all our own tests. So we use Automate Pro ourselves to test. So we kind of our first customer is ourselves, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Advanced ones. I mean, I think this is the real key
That's too
thing.
quick.
And we talked a bit about ATF earlier. Is that
again, question
what
from
customers
Ankit.
tell us
He
is that
says
ATF
that
is kind of
are only
okay if
basic
you're just
process
doing a
scenarios
basic
covered
form
or
validation
advanced
or
as well?
something like that. But our customers aren't satisfied with that. And if you want to get into, going back to this, if you want to get into Happy Land or Super Greenland, then you need to be testing those complex scenarios, because I've been responsible for these kinds of systems in the past, and the last thing you want after an upgrade weekend is the CIO, phoning you up, or the IT director saying, you said everything was going to be okay with the upgrade, but we've tried to do this process and it's failing. Nobody wants to be in that situation. So what we want to be able to do, and what you can do in Automate Pro, is build in those really complex workflows, the multi-tier approval for things, checking all of the exception flows. You can build all of those in and have complete confidence that the system is going to work when the users go in and do that. And hopefully people are familiar with Selenium on the call. Selenium is the automation that gives you the closest you possibly can get to a user actually clicking on the buttons and following that process through. We don't spoof anything. There's no kind of going in behind the code and making things happen. This isn't code level testing. This is UI testing as if the end user is doing it. So it's as close as you can get, and that gives you that reassurance in effect. Upgrade best practices are a lot of the best practices we've built in. I've shown you a lot of that today. So we kind of build that in and wrap
and what
that
about
around
the
our
upgrade best
software as well.
practices?
So we
Are
try
those
to
compared?
encourage people to follow those practices. The tool is an app, though, in ServiceNow, so you can use it as you wish to, but we provide a lot of guidance. A lot of customers like us to help, not only by providing the software, but also to use our expertise in having done this with lots of customers. So we build in a lot of best practice into the tool, but it is flexible. If you want to do things in a slightly different way, then of course you can do that as well. So yeah, it's a fantastic question. So
there is one more question.
I would say
where,
you can do if you want to.
I like this question. It says that do we need to install Automate Pro on production instance or non-production instance?
Organizations, so we're
it is
talking
from
banks
Guilds
and insurance companies and healthcare and things. that for regulatory reasons, they are not allowed to provide audits information on a non-production system. So it has to, the records of the testing and the evidence has to exist on production. So if you're one of those sorts of organizations, then you can install it onto production and hold that data there. Typically, our customers install Automate Pro on a development or test instance and run things from there. So, but it can behave in different ways, and we can walk that through with you if you're interested to know more about that. Okay. Yeah, I'm pushing my development team very hard, and in fact, some of them are working on it this weekend to get it ready for submission to the store. We're just making a few changes
when this will be
that we
available
want
on
to
store. Is
include
there any
before we put it
timeline
up onto
determined?
the store. So within, I would say, hopefully, if the certification process goes well, be looking at early April. If you guys want to be kept updated to that, please just ping me an email or on LinkedIn, and I'll keep you updated with when it's there. We are obviously going to do quite a big promotion when it is up on the App Store, so look out for the messages as well. We'll be pushing out a lot of material on LinkedIn and various forums and things to say that it's there. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks is the answer. Yeah. So if you go, I've lost my mouse. Why has my mouse decided not to work? Let me use my finger. There we go.
And if people want any documentation on this
so the website,
product,
if you're interested in more
can they
information,
reach out to your?
In fact, I don't
maybe you have your site. Should we point them there?
AutomatePro.com. Yeah, there you go. So there we go. AutomatePro.com. A lot of information on there, case studies, product information. We've got a really nice area here where you can see all of the different modules and what they do. There's some explainer videos. So if you only got 90 seconds, you watch that one. If you've got 5 minutes, watch that one. There's a lot of other material available. You might recognize that from my slides. That's the end-to-end. And then we can drill down into each of those modules. So if you're interested particularly in auto test, then there's a whole page on that as well. So yeah, there's lots of information on there, automatepro.com, and if you want to have some more information, you can talk to our guys. They're really friendly. We try not to do hard sell on people. We just do we'll show you what's there. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. We're not going to pressurize anyone. Yeah, good. Another good question. You guys are really nailing it on the questions.
Yeah, looking at the time, I will take last two questions from the list.
By us. So
people want to know
kind of the
that
automation
where is the Selenium install and what rule is required from ServiceNow point of view.
We hook the app up to our back-end infrastructure, and that's a question of basically just putting a key code in that hooks you up. Depending on the licensing you take out, it depends how many parallel executions you can do, but we look after all of that for you. So you don't have to install Selenium or upgrade it or worry about any of that. All you do is build the test, run the tests from the app. We look after everything else for you. So the app is as easy as that. Yes, you can. So one of the benefits of putting it into production, which will be good when it's on store, because you'll be able to do that. If you have it in production, then you can do a clone and preserve for all of the Automate Pro tables. I think there's about 30 or 40 tables that need to be preserved. So that's a benefit of putting it in production, is you can set it to be clone and preserve. And then when you clone over, you don't lose your test data. There are export functions at the moment, so you can export the data from a non-production instance. But obviously the ideal way is to do clone and preserve. Okay. Yeah, good. Another good question. Yeah, so we don't store any of the customer's data. So
Yeah,
all
there
of
are two
your
questions which are
tests
quite
and your
similar.
data and everything is all
First,
held in
if
your
the data is
ServiceNow
living out of
instance
ServiceNow, and
inside
what
the app
about
in those
GDPR?
custom tables that we've given you. When you execute the tests, the data necessary to execute them is transferred via the ServiceNow API, the standard API, the secure one. It goes off to our server infrastructure. The tests get executed on a server, and then we shut that server down and wipe it. We don't hold any of your data on there. We don't even store it in logs. We've gone through penetration testing and so on to make sure that we don't leave. We're not holding customer data. We've got some of our customers are some of the biggest banks in the world, healthcare, insurance, and we've been through many security audits to make sure that we look after data and securely. So the key thing is your data lives in your ServiceNow instance. Yes, it does leave in order to be executed, but we wipe it. We don't store it. It's not persistent. Oh, sorry, I missed that. GXP. I'm not sure I know
what about GSP testing? Sorry.
GXP. I've not come across that actually.
Does it cover GXP
that
testing?
is primarily meant for pharma companies. They use GXP testing.
Question from Namita.
Can you expand on what that is? And I may have come across it, but not under that name.
Okay, so that has it's more from the compliance point of view. They have a lot of governance process in terms of testing. It also requires various approvals, and it will have detailed test cases for each and every scenario.
Right.
So it's only for targeted pharma and healthcare.
Okay, we've got a very, the largest healthcare company in the US uses Automate Pro. They run about 65 to 70 hours worth of testing every night to do full regression path every night. It's not something that's come up before. We're talking to two other pharma companies, one of which is very much in the news at the moment due to COVID. If it needs to be done in the platform, one of the things we're really keen on is to keep evolving the platform. So what if you do become a customer of ours, what you've got today, it will not stay still. We've got a really exciting roadmap of stuff. So if there's a particular requirement that you need, we're more than happy to talk to you about what that is and build that in, because obviously that helps expand our platform and the usefulness of it. So more than happy to discuss that with you further. Thank you. Yeah, lots.
Last question,
actually.
Paul. I don't want you to wait,
I'm on call. I don't go on every sales call that we've got, but I do try to join
how many
as many as I
have you
can do
seen
that fit in my
that are
diary,
failing
because I find
terribly
that
in
it's
upgrades?
invaluable for me to understand the pain that customers are feeling, so that we can solve that in the software. And I think, on a daily basis, customers are telling me that there's painful upgrades. In fact, one of the things we've seen recently is that this is becoming an issue not just for the ServiceNow customer themselves and the team involved with those customers, but I'm even getting sort of ServiceNow account executives come to us and say, I've got a customer who's 2 upgrades behind. I can't sell them any more licenses because they need to upgrade. Can you help? Can you get this customer on the latest version? How quickly can you do it? So it's becoming I think it's always been a problem. But my interpretation of it is that I think everybody thought that ATF was the solution to that problem, and it's not turned out to be. I'm sure it's helped some people, some organizations, but it hasn't solved the upgrade problem. And we've built a platform which we believe has built in all of the best practice and the way that you do this. And we've got case studies that I could show that have moved customers away from that pain. And so, but in answer to the question, yes, lots of people are in this kind of pain and are looking for a resolution to it.
Yeah. Srinivas has raised his
Oh, that's
hand.
very nice.
Srinivas,
Thank
do
you very
have
much for the
anything,
happy anniversary.
really, really last now? We can't hear you if you have anything.
Definitely won't forget it.
Okay. So Paul, thanks for your time. So I think this webinar will be special for you as well,
Fantastic.
because it was on the special day. Um, we will be having quiz after this, Paul, but if you want to leave, yeah,
One thing
you
I
can. We
can
will share
definitely
the
say, it's
recording with you
something
as
that
well,
I'm definitely
and we
going to
will
look
post it on
out
our
for, this
channel and
Automate
on
Pro
LinkedIn.
thing, and I'll definitely
From the
put
core team, guys,
on
do
this
you
in the
have
minds
anything?
of my
Dhruv,
customer, that this is
Pranav,
something I have
Pankaj?
seen, and this looks interesting to me and pretty useful. So do check out.
Thank you, Dhruv. That's very kind of you to say, and we would really appreciate anybody who has got a customer that's suffering this kind of pain. Really appreciate. Please reach out to me directly. I don't mind people contacting me on LinkedIn and things. I love talking to people that we can possibly help. So please do that.
Sure. And people are asking for the PPTs. So the link, Paul, would it be possible for you to share that link, Meeting Hub, in the chat so that we can share it?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Let me put that in there now.
Thanks, Paul.
Show conversation. I'm glad this. That's okay. No, it's okay. I was going to say I'm glad you use Teams, because I know Teams. I don't use Zoom very much, and I don't know my way around it as well.
Paul, are you interested in?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but are you?
Fantastic. I will do that. Shall I put that in the chat as well?
Yeah. If you also give the PPT, we can also put it in the.
I'll let you
meetup,
continue
so
on. I'll
can
try and work
actually
out how
get
to
the
put
automated
that in
email
the
out
chat.
Yeah, you can, and we will also share it from our end.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. But thanks, Paul, for your time.
Thank you.
We again from the Mavericks team, we wish you happy anniversary.
Super. Thanks very
again.
much, and thanks everybody for your
We
great
hope you
questions.
enjoy your
I
evening.
really enjoyed the session, and I hope you found it useful.
And then
cheers,
I will
everybody.
hand over the stage to Vivek. He will be conducting the quiz. So, but Paul, you are free to go if you want, or you can also stay on.
So it's a quiz time, and I think the people are lefting. So we have quiz, and that quiz basically on the Quebec release notes,
So, Vivek, over to you.
that has the timer limit of up to 2 minutes. So I'm sharing the quiz link over the message itself. Here your time begin. Yeah. Uh, 2 minutes. Its timer is already started. Okay. Yeah.
How much time we have? Like 2 minutes?
And we Mavericks people are not allowed to play again.
And we will.
Today competition is pretty less. I mean,
announce the
you
winners
can.
right away after 2 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. We got them. We have to distribute them. What I'll do of those things? I mean, one is more than enough.
And we are giving goodies also, right, Dhruv, if people win? Yeah.
Questions are interesting, man. Seems like I'm giving.
That might help you pass the Quebec data.
Yeah. I'm getting message from one guy. He's saying that he's not able to use the chat window. So he's saying where to answer.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
No, on the Google form, right? He can answer it there only, and then.
So I will stop sharing because I need to check my Excel. Okay.
Yeah.
We have 10 seconds. So yeah, it's almost done now.
And guys, whosoever wins,
Yeah. So the time
you need
is
to
up,
pass
or
on your
still we have
address
like
information on
few
the
seconds?
Telegram or WhatsApp, either to Vivek, Ashutosh, myself, or any other Maverick team member, so that we can courier that stuff to you. Most of the people who have won in the previous sessions, they have got, but I seriously didn't got the details from few of the people, so they are unlucky. I tried, man. So be sure to share your details if you win. And last thing about our next session, I guess it's planning next week, and next week is a long weekend because of Holi on 29th, and another long weekend because of Good Friday on 2nd. So we'll plan for 9th or 10th April for CSM boot camp. Okay. And okay. And Paul is not able to put that PPT, so we'll send it in the groups. Okay, we'll attach the PPT. So Vivek,
Yes, let me share my screen. So Nitish and Sarwan Kumar,
Do we have winners?
and Iston Ananto. We have 3 winners. So please kindly share your address.
Congratulations, guys. Do share your address, man.
Yeah.
And please share it as early as possible. Take your time. I'll be sending that on Wednesday, I
Nice.
guess.
Congratulations.
So till then, just pass it on.
Seriously, I use logic. That's it. Nothing much.
Nitish is not confident he won.
It's like admin exam preparations that you guys made the goods. Good one.
Thanks, guys, for joining. I think we can close now. If you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to know anything about Mavericks, please join our WhatsApp group, Telegram group. If you can't, then contact any core member like Dhruv, me, Vivek,
Thank you,
Gopal,
Ashutosh. Thank you.
Pankaj, or
Thank you, guys.
Pranav.